Hey, Julia Barzyk here from Wise Investigator. I hope you are having a good start to the summer despite the challenges that we're all facing right now. For those of us in research, whether you're a researcher yourself, you're involved in research somehow, or you're in higher education more broadly, this is something like we've never experienced before, and it's a rough time. So if you've been following my newsletter, I love to send out what I hope are encouraging words because I do believe there's light at the end of the tunnel. And in a newsletter, I have the opportunity to craft something and make sure that it's striking the tone that I want it to strike before I send that out. In the videos that I make, if you've watched these for some times, other than the ones that are with PowerPoint slides and their presentations basically that I record, these videos where I'm just chatting, they're completely unscripted and I don't have time to make scripts for videos and it's not a high priority for me. I figure if people want to hear what I have to say on these videos, they can. If they like something more structured, they can go somewhere else. You can sign up for a Wise Investigator program where we've got structured PowerPoints to guide you through something that's very well planned. But the YouTube channel videos, these are more casual and they're just for chatting. So honestly, during this difficult time, it has been more difficult to want to make videos because another thing that I really like to do in the videos is to be very upbeat and try to impart some energy towards action and be encouraging in these videos. And it's a little more difficult to do that now that we're in this situation where there are tactics that normally I would encourage people to act on without question that may not be appropriate for every person, right now. So I will say before I get into anything else that I wanted to talk about in this video, which is basically some ideas for how you might use your time this summer to get you ahead and get you further along in the research funding process, even in the environment that we're in right now. But one of the things that I do want to make sure I communicate that applies to everything I'm going to say here is that you've really got to be sure that you are acting on the information that's relevant to your exact situation or your specific situation. Because in working with clients and talking to many more researchers in the recent months, it's clear that every individual faculty or PI is going to be affected very differently. This, of course, has to do with what institution they're at, what research topic they're in, where they normally get their funding, where they were aiming to get funding from, if they've had a hold on spending, stuff like that, or travel, etc. So what you want to do is make sure that you stay informed about the bigger picture, but you also are mostly focused on how all this is affecting your specific situation right now. So please keep that in mind above anything else. All right, so what can you do this summer that will get you ahead no matter what's coming later this year or this fall? It's always a valuable thing to reconnect with why you started your research path in the first place. And one of the things I love to do when we start working with new clients at Wise Investigator is to interview these clients about their backgrounds. And we hear such interesting stories, such inspiring stories from people telling us the why behind where they are right now, how they got there. So if someone hasn't asked you that question recently, you could ask yourself and you could think about that and think about crafting a vision based on where you see yourself going from where you are right now. So it's reflecting back on what's brought you to where you are and those whys, but then also taking the next step to think about where you're going. And that's always a valuable exercise. Further, you may want to think about asking a colleague that question, asking the colleague to tell you their story. Because I bet there are colleagues you have that you've worked with for some time and you haven't asked them that and they haven't asked that of you. So that's something that we can forget to do because the people are close to us and we just don't feel there's time for those conversations, or it just doesn't come to mind. So if you haven't been asked that in a while, think about that for yourself, but also think about giving that gift of a question like that and your time and attention to somebody else, because that helps us connect at the human to human level, and that will always make us all feel better. So, this is all about reconnecting with your values, your curiosity, and other people, of course. So, perhaps take this time right now to listen and reset, realign, instead of feeling like you need to be grinding. Okay. So going from this idea that we can use this time to reflect and also vision towards the future, we can also think about how important this connection is, which I started alluding to a bit here, as a survival strategy, because it comes down to human connection in terms of our career success most of the time. What's behind that success? It's often human connection. So, this would be a great time to reach out to collaborators, mentors, other peers that you haven't been in contact with recently. There's certainly people who you'd love to talk to, but you haven't run into them lately. The time has passed, months, years. That's fine. If you haven't talked to somebody in 5 or 10 years, that's fine. You can still reach out. You can reach out and schedule a coffee chat, just meeting a casual 30-minute conversation. Could be on Zoom or in person, and reconnect, and don't have an agenda. Nothing that you're asking of that person, and no agenda for a meeting, but just to reconnect as people. So these relationships that you're going to nourish now, these are things that will sustain you later. So this is like putting money in the bank to build these relationships and nurture these relationships now. Now, if you do want to take some actions towards getting funded that are more tactical, you can go through your boilerplate documents, go through your bio sketch, and all those other pieces that are required for most proposals, and take a look at those, update those, do a little research on best practices to see if you can find some examples of things that other people are doing well. If you have a colleague, take a look, or you can take a look at some of their materials. Because if you can get these things in the bank, it's another investment. You're putting that away so that when those opportunities and deadlines do show up on your doorstep, and the deadlines are often coming sooner than we anticipated, you'll have those pieces there. So if you would want to plod through those, some of that stuff, you could probably put on a podcast or a movie or something like that. And when you're at your desk and just slowly work through those, you will make valuable progress, and it shouldn't feel like grinding if you can work through them without that time pressure. Well, in closing, I would like to encourage everybody to remember that change is the only constant. It's the only thing we can expect more of in the future. So we can expect things to change, the tides to turn. And I, of course, do not have any insight or crystal ball on how all of this will work out. And I don't want to be naively optimistic or in any way dismiss the pain that many of you are feeling right now and the fear about what could be ahead. Very real impacts, not just to career, but for family and many other concerns that you have that are real. So take the time to take care of yourself. Think about what things you can do that won't cause too much strain, but that will move you in the right connection. And think about move you in the right direction. I was getting to connection. And think about the connections that you can make, because that is money in the bank, those relationships and the trust that you build with people, and how healing it can be to just be person to person at a difficult time like this. Speaking for myself, I have a meditation practice. And if I did not, going into this difficult time, I don't think that I would be handling things as well as I am personally. So, whether you meditate or it's something you might consider doing, or you have other practices, spiritual practices stress relief practices, physical activities, right, that help us a lot stay just not just physical, but mentally healthy. The arts, right, singing, music, there are so many things that we all choose to engage in that are right for us. So if you're thinking about starting something like that, maybe set yourself up to do that by changing your schedule to make that happen, or signing up for a membership, or reaching out to that music or singing group that you could join. And know that those kinds of activities really do help. I believe that's been shown, but I know from personal experience that it really helps me. So that's what I've been doing. At a time like this, it's very important to keep up with those practices for our physical and mental health. So I wish you all the best as you get started this summer. Most important thing, take care of yourself. Remember that what we're all doing, what you're doing, what I'm doing is important, and it has value no matter what anybody says about it. And no matter how much money is devoted to these activities, they have value. This is what moves us forward as a society. And I could not imagine working with a more dedicated, more inspired, and more optimistic and forward thinking group of people in STEM researchers, faculty, STEM government employees. I could not imagine working with a group of people that is more dedicated and hopeful just as a community and as individuals than you all are, or than we all are. So I know that we're going to get through this. And I don't know what the timeline for that will be, but I also have two teenagers, and I know them and I know their friends. And I know that the generation that's coming up is a really good group of kids. So, again, I don't know the timeline on that, but I am optimistic. And I encourage you to do what you need to do to take care of yourself and remain optimistic for the broader future, even if we're not so optimistic about the next 6 months or so. Take care.